Mr. Logan Herring. He is CEO of the work group, which consists of the Kingswood Community Center, the warehouse, and Reach Riverside. Welcome, Mr. Herring. Thanks for talking with DETV today.
Thank you for being here today.
Tell us a little bit about what's going on here today.
So today we have set up a center for the disaster relief in the wake of Hurricane Ida. We have 22 agencies, I believe, here set up in our gymnasium, so we can have a place where all of the community members can come in at one point and access everyone. We know it's been difficult trying to get in touch with people over the holiday weekend, so we figured if we brought them all together in one space, we're here until 4:30 p.m. for anybody that needs access to resources, whether it's DHSS, American Red Cross, DEMA. We have multiple agencies here just to address the needs of the community.
Are you talking with some residents today? What are the stories that you're hearing today?
Well, I was out here the day after the storm and all through the weekend. I mean, you're talking about 6 feet of water in people's homes. So you can imagine the impact that it has had. I mean, people have lost, many people have lost almost everything, from not having power, so their food has gone bad, to clothing, to cars completely submerged by water. So I mean, it's unimaginable. And then to walk through and see, it's almost like a ghost town. You have cars with the windows down that it look like they still have water, and it's just, it's a mess. So we understand that this is just the beginning. People are going to need support for a sustained time, and we want to be here to address those needs as we move forward and figure out specific needs as a community as we continue to have conversations with them.
What kind of response have you gotten from the community itself and from folks outside the community to this disaster?
Yeah, the community has been really appreciative of our efforts. And when I say our, it's the broader community. I mean, you have people coming from up and down the state, outside of the state, and, you know, really understanding that the impact is something that is, no one could have imagined that this would have happened. I've talked to many people who have lived in this neighborhood, are aware of this neighborhood and have been around for decades, and they have never seen anything like this. So we can all just, you know, try to imagine what it would be like to be in these people's shoes, but I just couldn't fathom it. So we just want to be on the ground and just help wherever we can best help, and that's what we're here for.
And what are the next steps for the work group?
The work group is just continuing to assess, you know, the needs of the people. We are, you know, we say with the community, for the community. So as we continue to get more information about what are the needs, how can we fill in those gaps, we're going to try to pivot and address those needs as best fit.
Any other message for the community before we end up?
You know, we still need support. We could use donations. I think the best way to donate right now, we have a lot of clothing, we have a lot of non-perishable items. We're trying to generalize the ask, but what gives us the most flexibility if people are willing to come out of their pockets and go to our website, reachriverside.org/donate. If you're willing to donate there, then we can use that money so we can, you know, adapt to the needs of the community as we continue to move forward.
Thanks for talking today with DETV.
Well, thank you for having me on. I enjoy seeing that you're live every morning.
Thank you very much. I know that Red Cross has been out here since hours after the rain stopped falling on Thursday morning. Give us an overview assessment of what you've had to deal with here in Wilmington.
Well, it's definitely a first experience here in Wilmington, and knowing that a river flowed right through our city is just an incredible concept. But we were called during the life-saving safety time, we were called to stand up a shelter. And what that means is the city stood up the shelter, and Red Cross comes in and supports with feeding and water, cots, blankets, and care. And then from there, that's life-sustaining. From there, we went out into the community to start to feed, mobile feeding through our emergency response vehicle, as well as we bring out disaster mental health and spiritual care to have conversations to help people have an opportunity to speak about this that they've just experienced.
This has been a trauma for many people in our community. Are there people making use of those services?
Absolutely. Sometimes you don't even realize you're making use of it. When we go out and we walk the streets, our volunteers, we're 90% volunteer. We walk the streets and talk to the community, see how they're doing, give them an opportunity to express their emotions so that we can all work together to empower towards recovery. This is a difficult situation, and to see your loved ones life saved, or a rescue mission, or your house with mud, or your items that are memories disappearing, that's hard enough. So how do you help find the hope? And that's the goal, is to help find the hope.
What's the biggest need right now?
Well, right now, I think housing, lodging of some sort, is a need that we're hearing about. And today, this particular, it's called a multi-agency resource center. We have people here to help the community understand what resources are available. For Red Cross, ours is, again, the continued service that we have. Yesterday, distributing the emergency supply kits, which is really cleanup kits. The other major need, and they will need volunteer hands for, is to clean out the homes. We need to remove the carpeting or anything that might sustain the wet or mold remediation, and then starting to rebuild the homes.
There's been about 250 homes affected by the flood. Do you have an assessment of, or a sense of how many of those homes are not livable right now at this point?
Red Cross does not. We work in conjunction with our partners in emergency management to determine those. And so where we come out, it's really to talk about the health and well-being and the spiritual care, as well as the comfort. Kind of moving them to the next step, maybe getting them connected with their insurance company, or getting them connected with social services. We also replace medication when it's lost, or help them if, let's say, they lose electricity and they have a durable medical equipment that require it. So that's Red Cross's bailiwick. I would suggest talking to our partners out there that manage those questions.
What has been the response, the community's response outside of Wilmington to this disaster?
Incredible. I find it incredible. I think there's a surrounding community to this one that has jumped in to offer donations of non-perishables and clothing, but we also saw a family come out and just start cooking for the neighbors. They just set up a whole chain of barbecue to just start cooking for the community, even though they were not impacted. These times, as hard as they are, you see the best of people. You see the true humanitarian side of everyone that comes out to serve.
And what should people, if somebody's watching and they want to help, what can they do?
There are many places probably receiving funds. Here with the American Red Cross, we always ask if you can offer support where it's needed most. You can go on redcross.org and offer a donation for where it's needed most. That allowed us to be able to respond prior to funds coming in at this response. They also can jump into the state website, and I'm sorry I can't for the moment think of it, but if you go onto the state website, you're able to click that you're willing to volunteer. Or I believe they're going to be setting up a volunteer coordination site where they can just show up with their gloves in hand and start manual labor out there cleaning up the community and pulling it back together.
Is there anything else you want to say to the community today?
You are strong. You are so strong. You are so resilient, and you may not know it or you may not feel it at this moment, but at the other side of this, you're going to look back and say, I did this. I got from this point to where I am today, and I am strong. So please believe that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We are speaking with State Representative Stephanie T. Bolden, who represents the 2nd District that includes some of the affected areas. Welcome, and thanks for talking with DETV today, Ms. Bolden.
It's my pleasure.
Tell us, you said you've been out in the flood-affected areas since Thursday, since this happened. Tell us what you've seen and your experiences.
Well, it's been very personal and for me, because first of all, this area here, which we know as the 11th Street Bridge area, I grew up in this area as a kid, and we have a house that my dad built that's right at 1102 East 15th Street. So to see the damages and things of that, I never knew how bad it was here, because I was at Market Street Bridge first, and I did see the roar from the Brandywine River and didn't realize the damage it had done here. So when we came over here, it was the governor and Senator Brown, myself, Thursday, to come over to do the assessment and make sure that we were able to get information out to people that actually were concerned. And I did go door to door, taking down names of people and giving them my phone number. And I called them again on Saturday to check up to see how they were doing and if they were able to contact their flood insurance companies, because that's the main thing. I've been through something similar like this, only it was a pipe that burst in my house. So, but it was the same flooding that had to be addressed. And you must have insurance for flood as well as homeowners insurance. Now, having been in this area all my life, knowing it specifically and being able to represent it as a city council person and now as a state representative, this is all a floodplain. And when they built homes over here, they knew it was a floodplain. So there's got to be some type of an irrigation system put in here the same way that they did with South Bridge, which used to also flood the same way like it is.
And oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Would that be a city project or a state project, or the two should come together and work on that?
It would be a combination, and whatever federal funds or private funds we can get in order to do it. South Bridge has had a very big success with the program they have, and I have to attribute it to former Councilwoman Hanifa Shabazz that worked on that continuously and finally got it done. It was completed. So when everybody saw this flood water, the first thing they were calling was South Bridge. How are you guys over there? But they've done, it was no flooding at all. But then again, it wasn't even in that area. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of concerns here with the people, with the electric being off because the meters and some of that stuff got wet in the gas, so they don't want any kind of an explosion to occur, as well as contacting different insurance companies because of the flood insurance. But FEMA is here. There's been an emergency declaration put in place. They have to wait until all the plans are together. It's not going to be overnight. So it's just trying to make sure that everybody's concerns are addressed. That's the main thing. Don't have them wandering. So it's my suggestion that I know the mayor is working very diligently now to bring all the residents together, but I would suggest that they do it block street by street, because each resident has different concerns. Like 14th Street and 15th Street, their problems are different because they have garages. Then you have Hill Street, which has a different concern because they don't have garages, but they do have their first level is what was flooded out with their heaters and everything else is. Then you have Vanderbilt Avenue. So I would suggest that they use a school building or something where they can bring individual people in by their streets, have them there together to address those concerns, let them know what FEMA is going to be doing, let them know where the dumpsters are going to be, if there's going to be enough dumpsters, let somebody from the insurance commissioner's office to help them with their insurance and going forward.
What are people telling you? What are people telling you? Do they feel supported right now?
They're confused because there's no camaraderie in terms of everything being explained to them. So you have a person here, there, and I'm trying to get the information for them. However, I'm having the same problems because I've got to go to Public Works, L&I. I'm trying to deal with their insurance with them to help them. So what I'm going to do is have them just call my office. And I'm trying to get in touch with the mayor that we can set up these meetings, because I think that would help. That's the best avenue to go at this point.
And you're talking about some informational community meetings.
Yes,
for
but
people.
Not with everybody together, because we don't need a town hall meeting. We need meetings with people that live on specific streets, because the problems are different. And if you just have a town hall meeting, you're going to get so much information, everybody at the same time, and I don't think they will leave there feeling that their concerns have been addressed.
How long do you think it's going to take these neighborhoods to recover?
Well, that's hard to say, because everybody has different amounts of damage. We just don't know. And the biggest part is Delmarva can't come in and do anything until we feel it's safe, that there won't be any explosions. That's why everything is cut off, because before some people were staying in their homes because the second and third floors weren't affected, just the bottom. However, with all that water in there, eventually you get mold. All of it's got to be gutted and all that installation taken out, because that's what happens.
What are the next steps for you as state representative?
To continue to follow up with everyone, to make sure that whatever the state is doing, I know Department of Health and Social Services are here. I need to make sure that the people that are eligible are getting the stipends that they need, the financial support that's coming from the federal government, and to keep in touch with our U.S. senators and our congresswoman to make sure that that part, I can, stay on top of that part, and then work in conjunction with the city to see what help they need from the state in going forward. But there has been a collaborative partnership with the city to work with the state and FEMA. And AJ, who is in charge of FEMA, has been fantastic in getting things done or keeping us abreast of everything.
Is there any information we should be giving out today to people, or?
Well, the only thing I can say, and I know that it's difficult, and that's for them to be patient and just trust. I know it's very hard to do that, but trust in God, and He will see us all through. That's the way it goes, and that's where we have to put our faith and hope.
Thank you. Is there any other message you'd like to give to the community at this point?
Just to stay safe and be blessed. And thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We are speaking with Mr. A.J. SCHALL, who is the director of the Delaware Emergency Management Agency. Thanks for speaking with DETV today, Mr. SCHALL.
Thank you for your time, Patty.
Could you, before we begin, give us an assessment of what this emergency was, what this disaster was, and how big it was?
So I think historic's been a word that's been used across the, from the Gulf Coast to the Northeast over the last week, and that's what it was. We knew the tropical storm was coming. We, usually we tell people, you got to be prepared. You have to watch the news. You got to stay up to date in the weather. And here's a system that's coming up over land, from the Gulf Coast, which usually that means it's going to decrease in the intensity. And it did nothing but, actually still be as strong as it was down the Gulf Coast by the time it hit the Mid-Atlantic area. So, between Wednesday and Thursday, there's areas north of us that got over 10 inches of rain. So as well as we didn't have that much here, all that rain built up overnight and through those storms and kind of came down the different waterways, the Brandywine being one of them. And that was what really devastated this community here in Wilmington.
Tell us about the Brandywine River. It was historic. It crested at 34 feet.
I believe it was about 2 feet over its record before. I don't have the updated numbers there in front of me, but it's still definitely what we haven't seen in some time. And an area of the city that hasn't flooded, for some time as well, talking to the mayor and the city emergency manager.
And how large an area of the city was flooded?
So I think it's give or take about 20 city blocks. It was on the other side of the Christina, so right near the Brandywine. I would say about 20 square blocks, maybe a few other areas, might have been high ground, not impacted, but that's where the damage assessment's been and a lot of the outreach has been focused on the last few days.
Tell us about what your agency, how it responded and what you've been doing.
So we're here to assist the city of Wilmington, so we'll assist Director Willie Patrick with, the needs that the city's unable to provide. A lot of that's just capacity or, timing or the mass influx of requests that they're getting. So we assisted with our Department of Health and Social Services Thursday and Friday with a reception center and shelters that were set up for people that might have been displaced. Through this weekend, we've worked with our volunteer organizations active in disasters called the VOAD. Some great organizations, the Red Cross, Salvation Army, have worked tirelessly to work on feeding missions to go more or less, a mobile pantry to go through the area to talk to those people. Worked with DELMARVA very closely. DELMARVA has been an outstanding partner, leaning forward as far as they could to really get in there and help residents, the ones that we could get the power turned back on, to work with the city licensing and inspection department to do it as quickly as possible and as safely as possible. And now, there's a lot of emotion, a lot of hurt in this community. And now what do we do? What services could the state either bring through programs we already have or through other partnerships to assist the community? And that's what we're working on today, to get not just the status of where people are, but also, trying to anticipate what those needs are. I told people before, flooding is much different than other weather events. Last year we had a tornado, multiple tornadoes, one that came 30 miles from Dover up to, central Newcastle County, devastated several hundred homes with significant damage. But that's different. You put a tarp on it, you're able to get crews out there, clean up, at least stop that damage, after that tornado comes through. Flooding's totally different. You're against the clock. People get in their basement, it starts saturating carpet, drywall, etc., leads to mold and mildew. So it's a snowball effect, unfortunately, and it's damages infrastructure like sometimes that people don't even know that it causes. So, it's getting, we even have people from public health, they talking about what could they do, how do you start to clean up? How do you make sure your house is safe to go into? So it's devastating, a lot of emotion, and we feel for the people in Wilmington right now.
What are the biggest needs right now? I know you're assessing
Yeah,
today.
so I think the biggest need, and this is, remember, everybody's in a little different situation. I think the need that Department of Health and Social Services is going to be working on with the city of Wilmington for the near term is going to be those individuals that have so much damage to their house they can't get back in the next few days. So it's going to be what programs can we help them get long-term housing, and it's a conversation with them. You have friends and family that you could stay with. Where do you work? We want to make sure kids get back to school and aren't pulled out of the community. So it's a process. But I would say that's probably number one. Number two would be individuals that probably are able to get back in their house but need assistance getting it back to a condition where they get all the water damage, drywall out, carpet, old furniture that might have been damaged.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of what already happened this weekend. We walked several times this weekend, and the community coming together was very, it was great to see. And we're working with some of our volunteer groups to see what type of grassroots efforts they could spearhead over the next few days, or get people in the area and help.
Now, Wilmington fortunately did not have any deaths. The Northeast, the death toll has been horrendous, over 50. In New Jersey and New York, people drowning in their cars and in their basement apartments. Was there any warning for this? Could we have been better prepared?
So I think we're always going to go back and see what we could have done better. I think, as I said before, I think the Weather Service was, out of Mount Holly, some great partners. They were putting out a lot of information really from last Monday on. Flash flood warnings, river warnings, a lot of stuff. A lot of them went to people's cell phones through the wireless emergency alerts. Pinpointing what was going to flood in a historic event like this is, something that we have to go back and see what can we learn from this. I will tell you the other thing that we've seen before and after disasters and specifically weather events is look at the morning that the flooding happened. It was a beautiful morning, mid 70s out, sunny. We started some rescues up in Newcastle County earlier in the day through someplace up on the Brandywine. The coordinator for Newcastle County Office of Emergency Management made a great call to move water resource rescue assets from Kent County up to Newcastle County to stage, and then they were able to jump in right behind the city of Wilmington and assist them. So, it's that coordination piece that went on, the preparedness piece, the public messaging. But I mean, I don't think there's any data that pointed us to, hey, this part of the Brandywine is going to have this devastation, early in the morning on a Thursday. People are getting ready, they're going to work. I was talking to one survivor, he's telling me, hey, trash came by, picked my stuff up, and then a half an hour later, the streets flooded. So, you hate saying no notice since we know it rained, but it was beautiful here. We, rain stopped almost 8 hours before then, and now people are dealing with it. So we'll definitely go back. We'll see what we can learn from it, and see how we can improve.
Do you have any other message for the community you'd
No,
like to give
I
today?
think the governor and we've talked to the mayor. We are being as creative as we can with programs and way we can help people recover. It's going to be a long road. I mean, somebody asked me, like, is patience our message? And it's hard for me to say patience because these people are hurting. It's emotional, it's trying, it's long days, and it's I don't by no means can I say I know what they're going through, but we're going to do everything we can with our authority and our partners to bring as much help as we can. It's going to be a long road though, and our hearts and prayers go out to those individuals.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schall.
Thank you.
Hello, we're speaking with Lieutenant Governor Bethany Hall-Long. Thank you very much for joining DETV today.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure to be with you, but wish it was just under different circumstances.
Absolutely. We've talked with folks about the housing needs and insurance needs and some of the other mechanical needs after a disaster like this. What we haven't talked about is maybe perhaps some mental health needs that the people might be facing. Can you, as a nurse, you come with that perspective. Can you talk a little bit about that, what the needs might be in the future?
Absolutely. You know, someone who's done public health nursing and has taught disaster response and disaster recovery for 3 decades, it is really important that not only are we doing the things that you're talking about, providing the housing, making sure there's clean water, making sure persons have the utilities, have the infrastructure, but part of the infrastructure needs to be oneself and how we respond to a disaster and a traumatic event. We each respond differently. Some persons will become more withdrawn and not show stress. Others will be very visibly having anxiety and depression. And it's really important that we not suppress our feelings, and that these are the times, whether it's through the Red Cross, the Department of Substance Abuse and Mental Health, who's here through the University of Delaware. We have our psychological first aid, known as the DETV present, handing out lots of incredible resources and providing some counseling. Because folks, it is okay not to be okay coming out of COVID, but particularly when you've experienced the loss of your home, significant damage, and flooding. Very important that we openly talk about our emotions.
And not only in terms of the loss and the devastation that people are feeling, but the frightening experience that they went through. We talked with one mom who said her 6-year-old son was afraid the water was going to come and overtake their house. So she had to pull him away from the window. I mean, where will there be reactions from that, and what can parents do to reassure their kids that they're safe?
You know, and I think you're right. Anytime we experience a physical disaster, which we just did here in Northeast, Wilmington, very sad occurrences. And I think it's important for parents to recognize whether a child or they themselves are, after the experience, having some trauma, hard time sleeping, not really wanting to eat, having the anxiety. And it's really important to be able to speak to someone. One of the bright lights that came out of COVID, we have a lot more resources online for folks or through the telephone. So if you're not able to physically get in a car, you've been flooded, your car is not turning on, you can actually pick up the phone and you can call. And I'm going to make sure to leave with you our Hope line. It's 1-833-9-HOPE-DE, 1-833-9-HOPE-DE. Have that really memorized. We can put persons in touch, whether you have insurance or not, whether you're alone or with your children. Really, if you notice that someone is having a problem eating, sleeping, normal daily activities, so important. Or sometimes we turn to substances and we want to mask our emotions. We want to mask COVID like this is not your emotions. Part of the Kennedy Forum program that we've been implementing in Delaware is raising awareness that under stress, such as these events, people may turn to alcohol. They may turn to pills, or more to needles or other stimulants or depressants. It is important that people acknowledge and not be embarrassed. We can provide, anonymous support to any family and to call. And we also provide something called Narcan to all of our communities across the state. If you have someone, unfortunately, who may be suffering from an opioid addiction, it can be the life-saving tool that you need in your home, and it's free. And so, although today we're here talking about the physical damage, I'm so delighted at DETV that you have recognized the real importance of emotional well-being. So important. And so I hope that your listening and viewing audience takes us up on some of our incredible resources that we offer through both the Department of Health and Social Services, DSAM, and our Help is Here line. So again, I hope folks do call.
Does that have hours, the Hope line? It's
Yes.
24. It says on the sheet right there, it's 24/7.
Yep, 24/7, and you can call anytime, get a phone call, get a connection, and again, you don't have to have insurance.
Okay. And other needs that you're seeing in your position, or are there next steps that you'll be taking or your office will be taking?
My office, in collaboration both with the administration and the other many elected wonderful officials that you've had here today from both the state and the county and the city, it is really important that we address the inequities that have been experienced, particularly in this community. I know I've been blessed to have fortunately been able during this time to host meetings with our faith leaders, our Black leaders and Latino leaders in the state, to really begin to look at the infrastructure that's needed. And thanks to the warehouse in Reach Riverside, where we're being hosted today, for the work that they are actually doing to make sure that not only do we have the physical housing and the structures in place, that everyone, no matter their zip code, no matter their background, has equity. And I know that with the DEMA team and our teams that we have present here today with DHHS, we're going to work really hard to not only wrap our arms around persons to make them feel safe and their homes and security, but also in the long haul. And I think that the silver lining of any storm is we can reevaluate both our infrastructure and resources and how we can make a difference in the future and coming together.
Thank you very much,
Yep.
Lieutenant Governor. Thank
Great.
you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Welcome. We're speaking with Ms. Enid Wallace-Sims, who is the Senior Public Affairs Manager for Delmarva Power. Welcome, Ms. Sims, to
Thank you.
DETV.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for being with us today. We've heard from residents in the affected area that they were very grateful that there were crews out from Delmarva Power 24/7 getting the power back on. Can you talk a little bit about
And
your
we are-
company's
and
response?
We are out today. Actually, we had mobilized crews and mobilized some of our contractors to come out and see what assistance we could be to those residents. And one of the things that we really wanted to emphasize was safety, because of the fact that the water had actually submerged a lot of their appliances, the meters, as well as the gas. We had to make sure, the gas appliances, we had to make sure that all of those areas were safe prior to putting them back into service. So we wanted to make sure that the gas department came out and analyzed the meters as well as the lines. And then the electric was there. Actually, both sets of crews were there together so that we could make sure that those families that the water has submerged and that could be turned on right away were turned on right away. So they were given 24-hour service, and I have to give kudos to my leadership team. My boss, Glenn Moore, who is a director at Delmarva Power, was out here on the ground because I am the representative for the city of Wilmington, and I was on vacation. So I had no clue of the devastation until I turned the TV on to see actually what was going on. And I'm really happy that we could be of assistance. And today, my presence here is actually, I'm taking information from those folks who were directly impacted. If they have not had their service turned on or the inspections done, I'm actually taking their names and their cell phone numbers, and we're doing outbound calls to them to make sure that they get the services that they need.
Are there still a number of folks who do not have their power back yet?
Yes, in some cases, if it was not safe for us to turn it back on, then they don't have the service on. So, and if there's work that has to be done on in terms of their infrastructure, if the meters have to be replaced, if the electrical circuit board has to be replaced, then no, we cannot turn it back on. The worst thing that we would want to happen is that someone is in danger or a fire is caused by the fact that the service is back on and has not been inspected. So everything has to be inspected prior to us turning those services back on.
So, and is Delmarva making that determination, or do they need to have an electrician make that determination?
Both. It's a combination of two things, because there have been some contractors who have volunteered and come into the area and assisted with doing the inspections, and then license and inspection is managing part of that process as well.
Okay, so there are some people who are still in a position where they should not touch any of the appliances
Absolutely.
or touch anything
Yes,
until they get an electrician or somebody from Delmarva into their home.
that's correct.
And you did meet with a number of people here today?
I've seen about 60 some customers this morning, households that I have talked to. And because our customer care organization is so busy, what I'm doing is taking their names, their addresses, what their issues are, and I'm sending that back into customer care. And rather than them being, because we're so busy after a holiday, rather than them being tied up and being put on hold or being told that they're going to be called back, we have designated some representatives that I directly email, and they're doing outbound calls to those customers in this flood area.
Okay, very good. Is there a phone number that people can call if they couldn't get here today?
Okay, if they couldn't get here today, they can call the customer service number, which is 1-800-375-7117. Again, 1-800-375-7117.
Do you have any sense as to when the power might be back on for everybody?
No, because it's a house by house situation. Some people had, more damage or more water than others. Some people just got, it was just on the basement floor, but there were others that came through the line to talk to me today that said that it was up to the ceiling in their basement. Yes. So, it's a case by case and it's one house at a time. Everybody's situation is different.
Is there, I don't have any other questions, is there a message or other information you'd like to give to the
What
community?
we would like them to do to make sure that they call us prior to them trying to turn their services back on, because we don't want any emergencies to occur in their household. So we really want them to call in to Delmarva Power at the 800 number if they have had no power, and if they have gotten their own contractor and the inspections are done, then call us and let us know that the inspections are done so we can send a crew out to redo their, because in the gas situation, their gas water heater and the gas heaters have to be relit. So we have to do them individually, and the pallets on their stoves have to be relit. So we don't want anybody to turn anything on without calling us first.
And, last question, I'm sorry. We did hear there were crews going door to door.
Yep, they're out knocking on doors today.
So people, do they need an appointment, or
They don't have, if they are home and we have a, excuse me, a running list of those customers that we have already done services for. And then if we were unable to get in, we have a list that says we knocked on the door, no one was available, and we're doing outbound calls to those customers. So one of the most important things, messages that I would like to get across, is that customers need to give us all of their contact information, because now most people don't have landlines. We don't always have the cell phone numbers, so we're not able to call them. So one of the things that's most important, and one of the messages that I would like to get across, is that please call and give us your updated contact information so we can be sure that we're able to get in touch with you.
Very good. Thanks for speaking with DETV.
Thank you for having me.